What do you think it is about the story of the film that's translating to globally?
이거 뭐 리치 앤 푸어 이것도 부자.
So I think the story about the rich and poor is something that's applicable to any country around the world. So when you say international, you're basically saying that each country is different, but I think there's no point in really dividing nations because now in this current era, we all live in this one giant nation of capitalism, and I think that's something that Joker is about as well.
You just...
Forget the controversy surrounding the film. Forget the bottom text incels that rally to every Joker video, and forget your personal opinion on the quality of the film. Because with those stripped back, we can see that in reality, this film is a systematic depiction of the failure of the system. It shows the greed and lack of support for those that are poor and struggling. And in this video, I'll be focusing on the broken healthcare system, broken corporate media, and the broken corporate capitalist system.
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
Wait, you know what? No. I'm not going to start the video like that. You know what? Arthur Fleck.
Oh, no, you cannot joke about that.
Yeah, I said it. Arthur Fleck. Whether the system created him or not, he killed people. He killed people that were fucked by the same system that fucked him over. And that is not me saying that the pricks on the train, the manipulative coworker, or Murray don't have individual responsibility. They absolutely do. They all contributed to Arthur's descent in one way or another, but they are also byproducts of a broken system. Let's take the 3 train pricks, for example.
You want some French fries?
They are disgusting. They believe that they have the right to the world and they don't belong to it. They think they deserve the attention of a woman, and when they're rebuffed, their fragile masculinity is shattered and they resort to throwing fries at her and calling her names. You know, like, we all know those guys that will be sliding into a girl's DMs, and then once the woman says no thank you, they freak out. We know those guys that think all women are the same and believe that women hate nice guys. And the ones that think that no means yes and that they have to keep pursuing someone even after they say no. Because God forbid someone doesn't like you.
If she breathes, she's a fuck!
Those people are the scum of the earth, but they are a byproduct of a system that tells men, especially men born into a higher socioeconomic standing, that the world is theirs.
Dude, where'd she dump you, man?
Her car.
Your car? Dissed in the mouth.
Take the 1989 classic Say Anything, for example. More like Say Anything But No. Yeah, I hate myself too.
All my instincts, they return. The grand facade.
So, we all know the famous scene with John Cusack with the boombox, how sweet and totally not stalkerish of him. Well, the only problem is that this is all done after she says that she can't see him again. As an audience, we know that it's just Diane's punk-ass father who doesn't want her to see him, but from his perspective, she said no, yet he simply does not listen. And if you think I'm cherry-picking here, then
I'll leave you alone forever now. Thanks.
You want to dance with me?
No,
Why not?
because I don't want to.
You're so
Charming. Wholesome.
unwelcome.
If the romance in the media we watch constantly portrays that romance is about wearing people down until they actually like you, then children and adults will take that as a part of courtship. According to the CDC's 2010 National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, 1 in 6 women and 1 in 19 men in the United States have experienced stalking victimization at some point during their lifetime, in which they felt very fearful or believed that they or someone close to them would be harmed or killed. Now, this is a very nuanced and complicated problem that can't even be scratched in this video. But depictions of both courtship and relationships in a culture's pop culture plays a role in how people engage in said relationships, whether that be consciously or subconsciously.
I have a condition.
I'll tell you what you have, you asshole.
Soon after the train pricks have their perceived right to a woman's time and affection rebuffed, their sense of masculinity is shattered. And when Arthur uncontrollably laughs, they proceed to beat him up in order to repair their sense of being a man. But if this was a different movie, they would beat him up and run off, and the walls around our protagonists would close tighter and tighter. However, that isn't the movie we're watching. In this movie, Arthur pulls the gun on them and guns them down. And Arthur becomes one step closer to giving into the demons that are a millimeter away from the surface. Those demons never had to come out. Arthur, well, not the highest functioning person, was getting the help he needed. And it wasn't quality help by any stretch of the imagination. But it was help that in one way or another was stemming this outburst. And we can see it in our world today. Between 2009 and 2012, state general funding for mental health care was decreased by an estimated $4.35 billion nationwide, according to the National Association of State Mental Health Program Directors, which serve 6.8 million patients a year. And in that same time frame, 10% of psychiatric beds were removed.
Who knows?
We must reform our mental health laws to better identify mentally disturbed individuals who may commit acts of violence and make sure those people not only get treatment, but when necessary, involuntary confinement.
In March of last year, Trump proposed cutting $1.5 trillion from the projected Medicaid spending budget, which is one of the only ways many poor Americans can even conceive of paying for the help they need, which shows that there's still a continual attack on these people.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
So you can see why, once the funding was slashed and Arthur lost the one outlet that even remotely worked for him, the spiral gets worse. And yes, the worker was trash at her job, but she was probably severely underpaid and she was likely unqualified, which is common for roles that require schooling yet have very little compensation. The qualified people either do the job and leave because they can't afford to live on that salary, or they go get a corporate job, or they simply don't go to school for that subject because the returns are so low. And that's why when Arthur kills the psychologist at the end of the film, it is so profoundly disgusting and sad to me. Here you have a woman who likely could have gotten a tech job, or became an accountant, or a corporate lawyer. I mean, who knows? But she chose to help those that needed it. And in a system that prioritizes money over people, she chose people over that supply. And I know some D-bags in the comments section will say, well, she should have done computer science, or she should have done financing or marketing. And while those jobs are very important and can be very, very impactful for humankind, by and large, they help consolidate money into fewer and fewer hands. But her job is selfless. And it appears that Arthur brutally murders her. Which brings us to the film's resolution, which ends in a... Murray throughout the film is a stand-in for the media and late-night talk shows that frequently prioritize clicks over the well-being of the working class. But in this corporate capitalist system, what else would you expect? We hear more stories about every time Trump tweets than we do about the socioeconomic collapse that is still going on in the Midwest today.
I think the entire region, we have seen an uptick in heroin use. Heroin's cheap. Cocaine was king at one point, so it's a cost factor.
We hear more about celebrities and the vilification of random individuals on the internet than we ever do about unions or charities or about how to get involved in low-income housing projects. We hear more news from the major networks about us versus them, but never do you hear about things that actually bring us together, like the fact that 70% of Americans actually want to raise taxes on the rich, or that most Americans want universal health care in some form. But this is by design. The more people fight over bullshit like Captain Marvel and utterly pointless shit like whether or not the next Bond should be black or not, the bigger their pockets become. Because we are so focused on these random things that we don't actually band together on agreed upon issues. The media, of course, will always focus on the things that get us angry and separate us, but will be silent when it comes to private industry, large corporations, or billionaires. And let's not forget who owns the major networks. Fox is owned by...
It's about Roger from the BBC. Are you worried about Ofcom at all?
No.
Hello?
You should be worried about BBC itself.
MSNBC is owned by...
A recent survey done by 24/7 Wall Street finds that Comcast is actually one of America's most hated companies.
And CNN is owned by...
8,000 workers?
At least 8,000. It could be more.
She is one of many former AT&T workers who found out on corporate conference calls that she was getting what they called rebadged to a new company, where she's forced to train a low-cost foreign replacement.
Today it's my job. Tomorrow it could be yours.
This is not to say all news is fake or that they don't have factual information, but their priority is to get you to click and to reduce class consciousness. And this scene alone puts that into perspective.
Killed those 3 Wall Street guys.
Okay, I'm waiting for the punchline.
There's no punchline. It's not a joke.
Arthur is brought onto Murray's show simply to be ridiculed. And this is subtext in the film to show that media and, admittedly, many individuals have an obsession with laughing at and picking on random individuals who by themselves will never have an effect on the socioeconomic world they live in. Arthur is entering a clearly hostile environment, and once he becomes the hostile in said environment by revealing he killed the men on the train, Murray is told to cut the tape. But he doesn't. He keeps going, even though the responsible thing to do would be to not give Arthur a stage. However, Murray does what the corporate media does every single time we have a school shooting and other tragedies. They show the face of killers. They rack up the death totals like a KDA score from a video game. They dive into their past and they notarize them. Even after study and psychologist after psychologist warns against this exact thing.
He sought many things from his act of terror, but one was notoriety. And that is why you will never hear me mention his name. He is a terrorist. He is a criminal. He is an extremist. But he will, when I speak, be nameless.
But to the corporate media, a click is the click. And this click leads to this. Arthur should not have killed Murray, and the film does not paint that as a good thing like some people on the internet might say. Murray is simply a byproduct of the system. Killing him changed absolutely nothing. And we all know that Gotham continues to be the hellhole that it is, even once Batman enters the equation. Because Batman never addresses the systemic issues, he just beats up bad guys.
Murder me!
But that's a whole topic for another video.
I don't know. I never knew. Never.
But as I said, it changes nothing. It changes nothing for the people that find themselves in the same position as Arthur. It changes nothing for the people who are disillusioned with the system and see no prospects of a happy future. It changes nothing for women who are often harassed, stalked, and treated like objects. It changes nothing for the healthcare system or the system at large, and him killing Murray does not change how the media operates. And yeah, that was never Arthur's true intentions. He never had any intentions. He is a deranged psychopath that was let down by the system. His mother was let down by the system before he was born. He was then let down by the system when they didn't rescue him as a child from the abuse that he was facing. And then he was let down again at work where they had no worker protection or care for the workers' well-being. And then the system finally lets him down again by removing the medicine that was helping keep the Joker within him at bay. So I think that The Joker is an absolutely spectacular film, and I think that Todd Philips crafted a masterclass script that tackles many issues today through the descent of Arthur. However, I do not think the Joker should be viewed as a hero that the people rally behind, because he does not deserve our praise or our martyrship. He killed people. And not only did he kill people who were going through the same class struggle he found himself in. Because ultimately, Arthur, the Joker, whatever name you want to give him, he is a class traitor. And this tale should remind us that we can stop all of this. We can stop the Joker with proper funding and compassion for not only those that suffer from severe mental health issues, but for everyone around us. We are all byproducts of our system. And so is Arthur.
Okay, we got a big show tonight. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
That was great, Arthur. Thank you. I mean, I loved hearing what you had to say. It made my day.
Thanks, Murray.
You see all this, the lights, the show, the audience, all that stuff. I'd give it all up in a heartbeat to have a kid like you.